Most people think hiking alone is peaceful. They imagine quiet forests, fresh air, the sound of birds, a chance to escape from everything. And for the most part, they're right. That's why I started doing it. For almost 10 years, I traveled across America hiking through national parks by myself. I wasn't an extreme survivalist. I wasn't looking for danger. I just liked being somewhere nobody could reach me. No phone calls. No notifications. No noise. Just miles of wilderness between me and the rest of the world. At least, that's what I thought. My name is Daniel Carter. And what happened to me on my final solo hike changed the way I look at every forest, every trail, and every place where humans think they are alone. The first warning sign came before I even entered the park. I was planning a 5-day backpacking trip through a remote section of a national park in Colorado. A trail known as Black Pine Ridge. It wasn't a famous trail. Actually, most hikers didn't even know it existed. The trail wasn't marked on many modern maps. But old hiking records showed it had been used decades ago. I found the route through an archived ranger document. The area looked perfect. Dense forest. Mountain views. No crowds. Exactly what I wanted. When I arrived at the ranger station, I expected to sign my permit and leave. Instead, the ranger looked at my route and went quiet. He stared at the map for several seconds. Then he looked at me. "You're hiking Black Pine Ridge?" I nodded. "Yeah. 5 days." The ranger didn't immediately respond. He just looked uncomfortable. Finally he said, "That trail is closed." I frowned. "Closed because of weather?" "No." A pause. "Because people keep getting lost." I laughed slightly. "People get lost everywhere." He didn't laugh. That bothered me. He opened a drawer beneath the desk and pulled out an old folder. Inside were missing person reports. All from the same area. Black Pine Ridge. I looked through them. Different years. Different people. Different ages. But every report had the same detail. The hikers disappeared after the 3rd night. The ranger noticed me reading. "There are thousands of miles of wilderness out here," he said. "Sometimes people vanish." I nodded. But something in his voice told me he didn't believe that. Before I left, he handed me my permit. Then he said something strange. "Whatever you hear out there." I looked up. "Don't follow it." I smiled awkwardly. "What do you mean?" The ranger looked toward the forest. "Just don't." I should have listened. The first 2 days were perfect. The trail was beautiful. The forest was endless. The mountains looked unreal. Nothing seemed wrong. I reached my first campsite before sunset. Set up my tent. Made dinner. Enjoyed the silence. That night was peaceful. Until 2:13 a.m. That's when I heard footsteps. Outside my tent. Slow. Heavy. Walking around my campsite. At first I thought it was an animal. A deer. A bear. Something normal. Then I heard a voice. "Hello?" I froze. A person. Outside. In the middle of nowhere. At 2 in the morning. I stayed silent. The voice came again. "Hey." It sounded like a man. "Lost. Scared. Can you help me?" Every instinct told me to answer. But something felt wrong. The forest was completely silent. No insects. No wind. Nothing. Just that voice. Then it said something that made my blood turn cold. "Daniel." My breathing stopped. How did it know my name? I didn't move. I didn't answer. The voice changed. The fear disappeared. It sounded annoyed. Daniel. A pause. You know I can hear you. I grabbed my knife. Not because I thought it would help. Just because holding something made me feel less helpless. The footsteps moved closer. The tent fabric shifted slightly. Like someone was standing inches away. Then, nothing. No footsteps leaving. No movement. Just silence. I stayed awake until sunrise. When I finally stepped outside, there were footprints around my tent. Human footprints. Bare feet. Going around my campsite. Hundreds of them. But the strangest part? They weren't coming toward my tent. They were coming from the forest. And they all stopped at the same place. A few feet away from my sleeping bag. Like whatever was outside had been standing there. Watching me sleep. I packed immediately. I almost ended the trip. Almost. But something stopped me. Curiosity. That's always the problem with places like this. The unknown pulls you closer. On the third day, I reached an area marked on my old map as an abandoned ranger station. I wanted to find answers. The building was still standing. Barely. Inside, everything was covered in dust. Old equipment. Old journals. Broken radios. Then I found a notebook. A ranger's log. The final entry was dated 1987. The handwriting was rushed. Panicked. It said, Day 9. They are copying voices now. I stopped. The next line. Do not answer them. Another page. Day 11. They are using people we remember. Another page. Day 14. The forest is not empty. The final entry was written so hard the paper tore. Day 16. If you hear your own voice calling from the trees, do not follow it. I stared at the words. Then I heard something outside. A voice. My voice. Coming from the forest. Daniel. My blood went cold. The voice sounded exactly like me. Daniel, I found something. I slowly turned toward the window. Standing between the trees was someone wearing my backpack. My jacket. My clothes. My face. And it smiled. Then it whispered, You shouldn't have come here alone. For a few seconds, my brain refused to accept what I was seeing. The person standing outside the ranger station looked exactly like me. Same height. Same jacket. Same backpack. Same face. But the worst part wasn't the appearance. It was the expression. The thing wearing my face wasn't confused. It wasn't scared. It wasn't surprised. It looked like it had been waiting. Waiting for me to notice. The copy tilted its head slightly. Then smiled. A smile that looked almost right. Almost human. Daniel. Hearing my own voice come from someone else made my stomach turn. I stepped away from the window. The old Ranger journal was still open on the table. The final warning stared back at me. If you hear your own voice calling from the trees, do not follow it. I finally understood why. This wasn't a person. It was something pretending. The thing outside knocked on the window. 3 slow taps. Daniel, open the door. I stayed silent. The copy looked confused. Then hurt. Like I had offended it. I know you're in there. My hand started shaking. Because it was right. It knew. It knew everything. The copy looked around the abandoned ranger station. Then said, You always wanted to find places nobody remembered. A pause. That's why you came here. My breathing stopped. How did it know that? Then it smiled. That's why we like people like you. The word bothered me. We. I looked toward the forest. The trees were completely still. Too still. Then I noticed something. There were other figures between the trees. Dozens. Standing silently. Watching. All wearing different hiking clothes. Different ages. Different faces. But all standing perfectly still. Like they were waiting for instructions. The copy outside noticed me looking. They are not lost. I swallowed. Who are they? The smile faded. They're the ones who stayed. A cold feeling moved through my chest. The missing hikers. They weren't missing. They were still here. Somewhere. Something had kept them here. I grabbed my backpack. I needed to leave. Now. I waited until the copy moved away from the window. Then I rushed out the back door. I ran. No trail. No direction. Just away. Branches hit my face. My breathing became painful. But I didn't stop. Because behind me, I heard footsteps. Not one person. Many. Following. I reached my original trail after almost an hour. Relief hit me. My backpack. My map. My route. Everything was still there. I could get back. I could leave. Then I checked my GPS. My stomach dropped. The location was impossible. According to the device, I was standing exactly where I had been 3 days ago. Same coordinates. Same elevation. Same distance from the entrance. But that couldn't be true. I had walked for hours. I had crossed streams. Climbed hills. There was no way. Then I noticed something on the ground. A small pile of rocks. A marker I had made on the first day. I remembered creating it. I remembered thinking, if I get lost, I'll know I've been here. But I wasn't supposed to be here. Not again. Then I found something beside the rocks. A note. Folded neatly. My handwriting. I opened it. Only one sentence was written. Stop trying to leave. You already did. I dropped the paper. My mind raced. What did that mean? Then my radio turned on. I didn't have a radio. At least not one turned on. The ranger station radio. Somehow it was clipped to my backpack. Static filled the speaker. Then a voice. An old man's voice. The ranger from the entrance. Daniel. I grabbed the radio. Hello? Immediately I regretted answering. Silence. Then. You answered. My stomach tightened. The ranger sounded terrified. I told you not to talk to anything. I looked around. What is happening? A long pause. Then he said, the trail doesn't lose people. The forest became silent. It replaces them. The radio crackled. The first night, it learns your voice. Static. The second night, it learns your memories. More static. The third night. His voice lowered. It makes a copy. I looked behind me. The forest was empty. But I knew I wasn't alone. What happens after? The ranger didn't answer immediately. Then. The copy leaves. My blood ran cold. What? The copy walks out pretending to be you. A pause. And the real one stays. I looked at my hands. My clothes. My backpack. Everything felt suddenly unfamiliar. The ranger continued. We've been trying to figure out how to stop it. Stop what? His answer came quietly. The forest spreading. The radio died. Then I heard footsteps. Behind me. Slow. Careful. I turned. Nothing. Only trees. Then another sound. Ahead of me. Someone walking toward me. A man stepped onto the trail. A hiker. Normal clothes. Normal backpack. A tired expression. I almost felt relieved. Until he spoke. Daniel. My heart stopped. It was me again. But older. Much older. His face looked exhausted. Like someone who had spent years trapped in the forest. He looked at me and whispered, "Don't trust the one that looks like you." A pause. Because it's not the first copy. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? He looked toward the trees. Fear filled his eyes. Because the forest has been copying people for a very long time. The trees behind him began moving. Not from wind. From something walking through them. Something massive. The older version of me stepped backward. Then whispered, "It's almost time." I stared at him. For what? He looked at me. And said, "For the forest to copy the entire world." The older version of me looked like someone who had survived something impossible. His clothes were torn. His face was covered in small scars. His eyes carried the kind of exhaustion you only see in people who have spent years fighting something they can never defeat. But the thing that scared me the most was that I believed him. Because deep down, I already knew. The forest wasn't just copying people. It was studying them. Learning them. Keeping them. I looked behind him. The trees moved. Slowly. Like something enormous was pushing through them. The older me grabbed my arm. "Run." I didn't question him. We moved off the trail. Deeper into the woods. Every step felt wrong. Because I wasn't escaping the forest. I was moving further inside it. But the older version of me seemed to know where he was going. After almost 20 minutes, we reached a small clearing. In the center stood dozens of tents. Old tents. New tents. Some destroyed. Some perfectly preserved. A campsite. But not one campsite. Hundreds. My stomach tightened. Who made these? The older me didn't answer. He walked toward one of the tents. Inside was a backpack. A name tag hung from it. I picked it up. The name belonged to a missing hiker from the ranger reports. Another tent. Another backpack. Another missing person. They were all here. Every person who vanished on Black Pine Ridge. Their belongings. Their memories. Their lives. Stored in the forest. The older me finally spoke. The forest doesn't kill people. I looked at him. Then what does it do? He stared into the trees. It preserves them. A cold wind passed through the clearing. Like a museum. That word bothered me. Because I understood what he meant. The forest wasn't hunting. It was collecting. A thought suddenly hit me. How long have you been here? He didn't answer. I looked at him. How long? Finally he said. 7 years. My heart sank. 7 years. That was impossible. I had only been hiking for 4 days. He noticed my expression. You think time works normally here? I said nothing. Because I already knew the answer. No. It didn't. The forest wasn't just copying people. It was changing reality around them. Then the older me pointed toward a small wooden structure hidden between trees. A cabin. We need to get inside before dark. I frowned. Why? His face became serious. Because that's when they come out. We reached the cabin before sunset. Inside were dozens of journals. Maps. Photographs. Notes. evidence of every person who had entered the forest. The older me locked the door. Then he started explaining. Years ago, a group of scientists discovered strange activity in the area. Animals behaving strangely. People hearing voices. Lost hikers returning with different memories. They thought it was a natural phenomenon. Until the first replacement appeared. A missing researcher returned after 3 weeks. Same face. Same voice. Same memories. But his wife knew immediately. Something was wrong. Because he forgot one thing. A personal memory only the real person could know. The replacement wasn't perfect. Not at first. But each time it copied someone. It improved. The older me opened a journal. This is why it needs hikers. I looked at him. Why? Because hikers are alone. A pause. They can replace someone without anyone noticing. The truth made my stomach turn. The forest didn't choose random people. It chose people who wouldn't be missed immediately. People traveling alone. People nobody was watching. Then I noticed a page on the table. A list. Names. Hundreds of names. At the bottom. My name. My blood froze. Beside it was a date. Tomorrow. I looked at the older me. What is this? He looked away. The forest planned for you. The cabin suddenly went silent. Too silent. Then came a knock. 3 slow knocks. Both of us froze. A voice came from outside. My voice. Daniel. The older me whispered. Don't answer. The voice outside continued. I know you're in there. My breathing stopped. Because then another voice joined. My voice again. Open the door. Then another. And another. Different versions. All calling my name. The older me looked terrified. They're not supposed to be here yet. I whispered. What? He stared at the door. They only do this when they're ready. The knocking became louder. The cabin shook. The voices outside changed. Now they weren't copies of me. They were people. The missing hikers. Begging. Crying. Calling for help. Please. Let us out. We're still here. The older me closed his eyes. They're using them. The door handle slowly turned. Once. Twice. Then stopped. Silence. A few seconds passed. Then a voice whispered. Daniel. Not my voice. Not the copies. A different voice. A voice that sounded ancient. The forest remembers you. The older me grabbed a knife. What is that? I whispered. He looked at me. And said. The first one. The lights inside the cabin flickered. The walls began creaking. Not from outside. From inside. Roots started growing through the wooden floor. Slowly. Like veins. The cabin was being absorbed. The older me looked at me. Fear in his eyes. We have to go. Where? He pointed toward a hidden tunnel beneath the cabin. The center. I stared. The center of what? His answer was barely a whisper. The thing pretending to be a forest. We climbed down. The tunnel went deeper. Much deeper than any natural tunnel should. The walls were covered with strange markings. Names. Thousands of names. Every person who had ever entered. At the bottom was a massive underground chamber. And in the center? Was something that made me forget how to breathe. A tree. Not a normal tree. A gigantic black tree stretching upward into darkness. Its roots spread everywhere. Into the ground. Into the walls. Into the entire mountain. And carved into the trunk were faces. Hundreds of faces. Thousands. All trapped inside. The older me whispered, "This is where it keeps them." I stepped closer. One face on the tree opened its eyes. And it was mine. Then the entire tree spoke. Not with one voice. With thousands. "We were waiting for you." The older me stepped back. "No." The tree continued. "You came looking for forgotten places. The roots moved. You wanted stories. The chamber shook. Now you will become one." The tree split open. And inside was a perfect copy of the entire forest. A second world. A replacement. The older me grabbed my shoulder. "It's not copying people anymore." The tree opened wider. "It's copying reality." And from inside the tree, something stepped out. Something wearing my face. But this time, it wasn't a copy. It was the original. I stared at the person standing inside the tree. My face. My body. My voice. Everything about him was me. But something felt different. The copies I had seen before always felt wrong. They were close. Almost perfect. But there was always something missing. A hesitation. A mistake. A small crack in the illusion. This one didn't have that. This one felt real. The older version of me stepped backward. His face turned pale. "No." The thing wearing my face looked at him. "You knew this day would come." The older me shook his head. "I thought I had more time." The copy looked confused. "More time for what?" The older me didn't answer. I looked between them. "What is happening?" Neither spoke. The underground chamber became completely silent. Then the tree whispered. "Thousands of voices. He doesn't remember." The roots moved. Slowly wrapping around the stone floor. "He never remembers." My stomach tightened. "Remember what?" The person inside the tree looked at me. And smiled. Not the fake smile from the copies. A real one. A sad one. "You're not the first Daniel." My breathing stopped. "What?" The older version closed his eyes. Because he already knew. The tree continued. "You have come here many times." The chamber shook. "You have walked these trails." The roots tightened. "You have searched for answers." A pause. "You have forgotten." My mind started racing. Memories flashed. My childhood. My family. My life. Everything felt real. But suddenly, small details felt strange. A birthday I couldn't remember. A conversation that felt incomplete. A photograph I remembered seeing but never actually owning. The tree was planting doubt. Or revealing the truth. The thing wearing my face stepped closer. "You think you discovered this place?" It pointed toward me. "But this place discovered you." I looked at the older version. "Tell me the truth." He looked away. Finally he spoke. "The first time you came here." A pause. "You never left." The words hit harder than anything else. I laughed nervously. "No." The older me looked at me. "I'm sorry." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" He looked toward the tree. "You were the first successful copy." Silence. I couldn't breathe. The world seemed to tilt. "No." The older me continued. "The forest couldn't copy a human at first. It could only copy voices. Memories. Appearance. But not the thing that made someone themselves." The tree whispered. "Until him." The older version pointed at me. "You were the first one it made that believed it was real." My stomach turned. Everything I knew felt unstable. My memories. My past. My entire identity. The thing wearing my face stepped closer. I am the original. I stared at him. Then what am I? He looked at me sadly. You're the reason I stayed. The chamber shook. The tree began changing. Faces appeared across the bark. Every missing hiker. Every copy. Every version. All connected. The forest wasn't collecting random people. It was trying to perfect one thing. Me. The first copy. The perfect replacement. The older version grabbed my arm. We need to leave. I looked at him. You said I never left. His expression changed. I said you never left this place. A pause. Not that you never escaped. I didn't understand. He pointed upward. Toward the roots. The forest sends copies out. My blood went cold. Where? He looked at me. Everywhere. The realization hit. The missing hikers. The returned people. The strange reports. The people who came back different. They weren't trapped. They were released. The forest had been testing. Improving. Learning. And every copy carried a piece of it. A piece that spread. The tree whispered. We only wanted to belong. The roots moved faster. The chamber walls cracked. The person who looked like me stepped forward. Join us. I stepped back. No. His expression changed. Not anger. Sadness. Why? A pause. You're already one of us. The lights inside the chamber flickered. Then I heard something. A sound from above. A helicopter. People. Voices. Rescue teams. My heart jumped. Someone had found me. The older version looked toward the ceiling. No. I looked at him. What? His face filled with fear. They can't see you. The helicopter sound grew louder. The tree began shaking violently. The roots pulled backward. Like something was fighting to keep me. Then the ceiling above cracked open. Light poured into the chamber. People shouted. Hello? Is anyone down there? A ranger. A rescue team. They had found the hidden cave. They were coming. Hope returned. I moved toward the light. The older version grabbed me. Listen. I looked at him. Do not go with them. What? His eyes were filled with fear. Look at their faces. I looked upward. The rescue team appeared at the edge of the opening. 3 rangers. 2 hikers. All normal. All human. Then one ranger looked down at me. And smiled. A smile I recognized. Because I had seen it before. The same smile the copy outside the ranger station gave me. The same smile the forest gave me. The ranger spoke. Daniel. My blood froze. The older version whispered. They are not here to rescue you. The roots began moving again. The tree opened wider. And from the darkness above, dozens of voices whispered together. Welcome back. The rescue team stared down at me. At least, they looked like a rescue team. 3 park rangers. 2 hikers. 5 people standing above the underground chamber. 5 people who should have represented safety. A way out. A second chance. But the older version of me was terrified. And after everything I had seen, I trusted his fear more than my own hope. Don't move. His voice was barely a whisper. I looked at him. Who are they? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared at the people above us. Then he said, The forest learned that people don't trust strangers. A pause. So it stopped sending strangers. The ranger at the opening smiled. Daniel. His voice echoed through the chamber. You don't need to be afraid. The older me laughed quietly. A broken, exhausted laugh. That's what they always say. The ranger tilted his head. Always? The older version looked at me. Because this has happened before. My stomach tightened. The ranger stepped closer. You've been running for a long time. The other rescue members slowly appeared behind him. Their faces were normal. Too normal. You're tired. Another step. You don't need to keep fighting. The tree behind me began moving. The roots shifted. The faces trapped inside the bark whispered. Not words. Memories. My memories. I heard my mother calling my name. I heard old conversations. I heard moments from my life. Moments I had forgotten. The forest wasn't attacking me. It was showing me. Trying to prove something. Then the ranger said. Because you already know the truth. The chamber became silent. You were never escaping. A pause. You were returning. My head started hurting. Images flashed. Me walking through the forest years ago. Me entering Black Pine Ridge. Me standing before the tree. Me making a choice. But I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember any of it. The older version of me stepped forward. Don't listen. The ranger looked at him. You ruined everything. The older me froze. What? The ranger smiled. You were supposed to accept. The tree shook. The entire chamber trembled. The older version looked at me. He was the first copy. The ranger pointed at him. The first failure. The older me looked angry. I was trying to save him. The ranger looked at me. No. A pause. You were trying to save yourself. The words hit. Because suddenly, I understood. The older version wasn't a victim. Not completely. He was another version of me. Another attempt. Another copy. Another person who believed he was the real one. The forest didn't create one replacement. It created thousands. And every version believed they were the original. The ranger smiled. The forest has spent decades trying to answer one question. The roots moved. What makes a person real? The tree whispered. Memory. 1,000 voices. Experience. Another whisper. Pain. The ranger stepped closer. Or choice? I looked at the tree. At the copies. At the people trapped inside. And finally I understood. The forest wasn't trying to replace humanity. It was trying to understand it. It didn't know what made someone real. So it kept copying. Testing. Repeating. Creating endless versions. Until one could prove it. The older version looked at me. That's why you came here. I stared at him. What? You weren't looking for the forest. A pause. The forest was looking for the answer inside you. The tree opened wider. The chamber filled with light. The faces inside the bark began screaming. Not in pain. In fear. Because something was happening. The forest was changing. The copies above. The copies below. Everything was merging. The ranger looked worried for the first time. No. The older version smiled slightly. What did you think would happen? The ranger stepped backward. You can't do this. The older version looked at me. He's finally choosing. The tree whispered. Choose. The same word from the first night. The same word from the forest. But now I understood. It wasn't asking me to choose which version was real. That was impossible. Because we all were. Every copy. Every version. Every person who had lived and died in that forest. All of us were real. Because we experienced. We remembered. We chose. The forest had been searching for a way to define humanity. But it had been looking for the wrong thing. Humans weren't special because they were impossible to copy. Humans were special because even copies could become something new. I stepped toward the tree. The roots stopped. The voices stopped. Everything waited. I placed my hand on the bark. And said, "You don't need another copy." Silence. "You need to let them go." The chamber shook violently. The ranger screamed. "No." The tree cracked. The roots began breaking apart. The trapped faces started disappearing. Not dying. Leaving. Finally free. The older version watched. A peaceful expression appearing on his face. "Thank you." I looked at him. Then he faded. Not like a copy. Not like a monster. Like a person finally allowed to rest. The rescue team above disappeared. The false rangers. The false hikers. Everything created by the forest collapsed. Then sunlight filled the chamber. Real sunlight. I woke up 3 days later at the edge of Black Pine Ridge. Park rangers found me unconscious near the trail entrance. They said I was lucky. They said I must have gotten lost. They said there was no abandoned ranger station. No underground chamber. No missing hikers. No Black Pine Ridge reports. According to them, the trail had never existed. I didn't argue. I learned something. Some places don't want to be discovered. Some places don't want to be remembered. And some places remember you first. I stopped hiking alone after that. I stopped searching for forgotten places. But sometimes, late at night, I still look through old maps. And every once in a while, I find something strange. A trail that wasn't there yesterday. A location that disappears when I refresh the page. A name written somewhere it shouldn't be. Black Pine Ridge. And every time I see it, I notice one thing. The trail is no longer marked as abandoned. It's marked as open. And underneath it, there's a note. A note written in my handwriting. 3 words. Bring more people.